More than 50,000 people have died and tens of thousands have been injured as a result of the devastating earthquakes that impacted northwestern Syria and Turkey on February 6th. Since Japan's Fukushima disaster in 2011, this is regarded as the most catastrophic earthquake, as it caused more than 5,600 buildings across southeastern Turkey to collapse. In the wake of such calamity, the victims were left reeling, grappling with a severe shortage of essentials like food, blankets, and fuel as they attempted to flee to safety. With the authorities declaring a state of emergency for 10 provinces in Turkey over the next 3 months, the road to recovery seems long and arduous for those impacted by this tragedy. In the aftermath of the devastating earthquakes, the government's response has come under intense scrutiny. Shockingly, soon after the earthquake, authorities and the military were nowhere to be seen, leaving citizens to fend for themselves in a desperate bid for survival. Several residents claimed that their attempts to reach out to the Disaster and Emergency Management Presidency were met with nothing but silence. As the dust settles, the question lingers: why did the Turkish government fail to act in the face of such widespread devastation? Those who managed to escape from collapsed buildings during the earthquake remained behind, hoping that emergency response teams would arrive to rescue their loved ones still trapped under the debris. Heartbroken survivors have spoken out about the lack of professional rescue teams or equipment from the government in the crucial first 2.5 days, deeming it ineffective and shocking. The echoes of their despair have reverberated across the globe, with experts and analysts weighing in on the reasons behind Turkey's failed emergency response. In the immediate aftermath of the quake, people turned to social media to share their locations in hopes of attracting rescue efforts. But when their pleas went unanswered, many came on Twitter to criticize the Turkish government's inefficient response, sharing photos and videos of the devastation on the ground. In a move that further hindered survivors' ability to communicate with others, the Turkish government banned Twitter for 12 hours from Wednesday afternoon to early Thursday. Authorities also made arrests related to provocative posts about the earthquakes and identified over 200 social media accounts that criticized the government's response. This led many to question why authorities were prioritizing these actions during a time of great devastation. President Erdogan, who is seeking re-election in May, defended the measures, claiming that he blocked Twitter to prevent the spread of disinformation and accused critics of engaging in negative campaigns for political gain. This comes in the context of a new law that criminalizes the spread of misinformation, with penalties of up to 5 years in jail for spreading false information that disrupts Turkey's domestic and external security or public order. But many have argued that the law is being used to moderate social media platforms and restrict freedom of expression. Turkey, which is located between two tectonic plates, has dealt with earthquakes for centuries, though this disaster is one of the strongest to impact the country since 1999, when a 7.6 magnitude earthquake killed more than 17,000 people. The devastation prompted the Turkish government to institute an earthquake tax and improve construction standards to better prepare for future quakes. Despite these efforts, experts report that many newer buildings do not meet building codes, while older ones fall short of the required standards. This is partly because construction is a significant industry in Turkey, and the government often ignores regulations. The poor quality of concrete used in buildings, the engineering and design flaws of newer high-rise buildings, and improper placement of support columns and beams are among the reasons for the recent collapses. Although the president of Turkey claimed that 98% of the destroyed buildings were built before 1999, civil engineers claim that more than half of the buildings in the affected areas were built after 2000, making the president's 98% figure highly unlikely. In times of massive disasters in Turkey, only the military has the necessary resources and capabilities to effectively respond thanks to their exceptional skills and NATO-trained discipline. But the Turkish government failed to assign a significant role to the military during the earthquake response, resulting in their absence during the crucial early hours and days, when countless lives could have been saved. In contrast, volunteers who participated in rescue efforts during the devastating 1999 earthquakes in northwestern Turkey praised the military for quickly bringing order to the chaotic aftermath of the disaster. The earthquake has revealed a major flaw in the country's governance model. The current centralized presidential governance model poses significant challenges for organizations on the ground to respond with the necessary flexibility. Although centralized systems are often praised for their ability to streamline decision-making and emergency response, the recent earthquake in Turkey has exposed their limitations. The rigid nature of centralization has hindered the decision-making process, and local actors have faced harsh criticism for their slow response. Despite anticipating the occurrence of such seismic activity, the Turkish government failed to prepare for how coordination would be carried out in the event of a disaster, leaving several organizations on the ground uncertain about who would take charge. Reports from witnesses in the quake zone suggest that the state did not coordinate effectively, resulting in fatal delays. Despite having a powerful network of security institutions, including the military, intelligence, and police that operate in multiple countries, there was little to no intervention from these agencies in the immediate aftermath of the quake. Also, Turkey's military and intelligence complex possess cutting-edge equipment and resources, such as highly touted drones, electronic surveillance, on-the-ground human intelligence networks, and heavy transport and communication equipment that could have been deployed. But these assets were not fully utilized during the crisis, raising questions about the government's ability to respond effectively to disasters. Amidst intense scrutiny and criticism, Turkey has announced ambitious plans to rebuild homes and infrastructure devastated by the recent earthquakes. President Erdogan, who is gearing up for an upcoming election, has vowed to reconstruct 200,000 flats and 70,000 village houses within a year, a project that is expected to cost a staggering $15 billion. An additional $10 billion will be needed for infrastructure development in the preliminary phase. Despite the challenges ahead, this massive undertaking could potentially transform the landscape of earthquake-stricken areas, offering hope for those affected by the disaster.